Just a quick one. So get into a nice comfortable posture. So get into.
Wait. Okay, say the joke.
So we ate too much for dinner, so I hope I don't fall asleep with my arm on the table.
Take two.
Take two. All right, back straight, head up. Hands on your knees or in your lap or somewhere where you can forget about them. If you're sitting on a chair, feet flat on the floor. If you're sitting on the ground, make sure that your feet are comfortable, especially feet and legs. And then again, take a few deep breaths and just let the tension out. Release all the tension from all the parts of your body. Concentrate on your breathing. Don't try to force anything, just watch it with full awareness. Place your concentration at the point where the breath comes in and out at the nostrils. Be fully there. Try to watch every molecule of air going in and out. So picture yourself in outer space. And it's the kind of outer space where there are no stars, there are no comets, there are no matter anywhere, just outer space. The blackness of outer space. Nothing in front of you. No sense object in front of you. Nothing you can see or feel or hear. Nothing. Nothing in back of you. Nothing on your right side. Nothing on your left side. Nothing above you. Nothing below you. Place yourself in nothingness. If you start seeing things, just like erase them. Nothing. Nothing whatsoever outside of you. And then turn your attention to the inside of your body. And instead of picturing, organs and veins and blood and various kinds of fluids, empty it all out. Start at the top. Work your way down. Empty every corner, every little nook and cranny of your body until there's nothing there whatsoever, like clear blue sky. So systematically work your way down. All that's left will be an outline, a sort of a subtle outline in light of where your body used to be. So work your way down from the inside and clear everything out. Just empty space. Nothing outside, nothing inside. So all that remains is that outline of subtle light, separating the outside where there is nothing and the inside where there is nothing. And then, like a fuse on a firecracker, begin from the top and dissolve the outline, little by little by little. And when the outline is fully dissolved, rest your mind in complete nothingness. Nothing outside, nothing inside, and no boundary between inside and outside. Nothing. And hold your mind there. Before you open your eyes, fill up the outside and fill up the inside again. Fill up the outside with the world around you. Fill up the inside with everything that's in there. And when you're ready, gradually open your eyes. How did you do with that one? Some people really like a meditation like that. Some people find it very hard. It's hard to stop thinking, isn't it? It's hard to stop thinking. That's an example of what they call a non-conceptual meditation, where you try to you try to stop thinking, you try to stop conceiving, conceptualizing, and you try to rest your mind in a non-conceptual state. And actually, that's a kind of a advanced meditation. I love doing that meditation. I try to do it when I'm having, try to remember to do it when I'm having a hard time sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah, because kind of sleep is kind of like that. Deep sleep is just oblivion, you know. So you're kind of practicing deep sleep, you know, in a kind of conscious way. And that's a very standard meditation, actually, in some of the Indian texts. And we'll be reviewing meditations like that next weekend at Pure Yoga. But anyway, some people like it, some people don't. So if that appeals to you, that's another really good, you know, quick relaxation meditation. Because you're not thinking, not stressing, not worrying, not imagining, not remembering. You just rest in nothing. It's a kind of an emptiness meditation. It's a non-conceptual emptiness meditation.
Ramaji, can that be considered a lazy way of meditating?
Yeah. I mean, it's lazy in the sense that it's easy, relatively.
You don't have to think so much.
Yeah, but it's hard not to think. So, you know, it's lazy in one sense, it's difficult in another sense. It's difficult to turn your mind off.
And
Time to wake up.
Sorry.
All right. We're on class 3. How many people are new to tonight? For first time coming tonight? How many people missed this afternoon's class? How many people missed Friday night's class? All right. So we'll do just a quick review. Tonight's class, by the way, class 3, for those of you who are coming for the first time, this is the third of 4 classes on the topic of getting unbusy. Getting unbusy. And as we've said repeatedly, getting unbusy doesn't mean getting inactive, but it means learning how to live in the world. How do they say that in Christianity? In the world, but not of the world. To live in the world, but not of the world. To be in the world means to, do what you need to do. To take care of business, but without busyness. To take care of business without stress, without anxiety, with calm, cool, and collected. And that's totally possible. It takes some training, and it takes, first and foremost, the desire to want to do that. The desire to want to live that way. And that means like kind of taking control over your life. So this class tonight is entitled Mindful Action and the Importance of Doing Nothing. I don't know if you've ever had the experience when, I used to recommend this to yogis. I've done a lot of teaching in yoga studios, and I used to recommend that when somebody calls you up, if you're a practitioner of yoga, and they say, hi, what are you doing? You should say nothing. I'm a yogi. I don't do much. Right? And then wait for the reaction. What do you mean you're doing nothing? You slug? What are you, lazy? Or you're not producing. Well, yoga, meditation, dharma practice doesn't produce much, And it's all inner, it's not outer. So in a sense, you're doing nothing. When you're meditating, you're doing nothing. When you're practicing yoga, you're not doing much. It's very interesting, the modern evolution of yoga is to do more and more and more. To get more and more active. And that's a very new phenomenon. That I suggest to the people who are interested in yoga in this room is a infiltration of the ideology of busyness into yoga. Because the traditional yoga, very slow, very meditative, it wasn't about doing much, you see. So tonight we'll talk about consciously, mindfully doing nothing. And the importance of being able to do nothing. We have lost that. We have lost the skill of not doing anything. And so that'll be tonight's class. Quickly, all right, as a quick review. In class 1, Friday night, last night I guess it was, we talked about busyness as a problem. And that's important for us to kind of concentrate on because the society around us suggests that busyness is not a problem. Actually, that busyness is a solution. To just keep busy all the time is a way to affirm your importance in life, the glorification of busyness for its own sake. Doesn't matter what you're busy doing, as long as you're busy doing something. You see, and that's a false ideology. That's an ideology that's not meant to bring any happiness to life. So it is, in fact, quite the opposite, actually. It's bringing us more and more stress, more and more anxiety, more and more tension to our lives, less and less peace and happiness. So to identify busyness as a problem is the first step. You can't solve a problem unless you've identified the problem as a problem. You see? So again, to emphasize, it's not a matter of just stop being active in life and quit your job and don't go to work and don't take care of the household and don't care. That's not the solution. The solution is to learn how to be active without being busy. How to be active without being busy. So, I suggested to people last night that there are people who do this. there are people who are quite active without any stress at all. They stay active all day, but they're happy, and that's and the spiritual traditions can help us learn how to do that. So you know, one way is to recognize that part of a large part, maybe even the entirety, of what brings us suffering in life, as opposed to peace, is what one text calls the compulsion to act, kartavya, this need to always do something, to always be improving, to always be fixing, to always be changing, which is actually the opposite of shanti. Om shanti shanti shanti. What does that mean, shanti? It means everything's fine. Okay? You could say it like that too. You know, there's different kinds of English translations that you can start using in yoga studios. Om shanti 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 om. Om relax, 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 relax. Om chillax. You see? Om everything's fine. As it is, here and now. Om be satisfied, be satisfied, be satisfied. Om be content. You know? Which is all the opposite of I have to do something. There's something I have to do. That feeling, okay? We have things that we need to do. There are things in life that we need to take care of. But the compulsion, this kind of obsession, this kind of like, you know, inner feeling of dissatisfaction all the time is driving us. And you could say driving us crazy. Driving us, you know, into more and more unhappiness, more and more dis-ease. Okay? So we talked a little bit about the dis-ease of busyness. The disease or dis-ease of busyness. So that was pretty much class 1. Then class 2 that we finished this afternoon was just a kind of a long tirade, you know, based on ancient spiritual Sanskrit texts, on prioritizing in life. Okay? Busyness is in many ways the obscuration of prioritization. You know? What's really important to do and what's not so important to do. You see, busyness just keeps us doing things without kind of like any kind of judgment or, you know, sense of kind of discernment about what's really important to do and what's not so important to do. What's that old song? When to hold them and when to fold them. You know, when to be a player, when to be active, and when to relax already. You know, so how do we determine, you know, what our priorities in life should be? And we suggested a very, very ancient, powerful method. What is it? Those of you who are here this afternoon, cast your minds way back like 3 hours ago, okay? Death awareness meditation, okay? Which comes in 3 parts. We'll just review them quickly. Your death is certain, okay? My death is certain. You have to use the pronoun for it. Sometimes they teach it, death is certain. And then you can, like, you know, kind of keep it objective, like away from you, you know, theoretical or something like that. So it's important to use the first person pronoun. My death is certain. The older you get, the more certain you are. So, right? For the people who are anyone getting older here? My death is certain. The time of my death is totally uncertain. Okay, these are not controversial statements. Okay, this is the facts of life. Okay, this is for sure. Your death is for sure, and the time of your death is absolutely not for sure. You know, you can't know. So they're kind of like contrasts, right? One is certain, and one is absolutely uncertain. The fact of your death is absolutely certain. The time of your death is absolutely uncertain. Okay? And we're unclear on this. This is why we don't prioritize. This is why we don't get clear on what's important to do and then actually do what's important to do, instead of keeping busy with all the stuff that isn't so important to do. It's because we're not clear on this. It's intellectually very, very easy to teach, and actually very easy to comprehend intellectually, right? But there's so many layers of resistance, what do you call it? Denial. Denial. Of course your death is, of course my death is certain. But, you know, we don't think of it because we're in denial about it. We're in denial about the only thing that is for sure in life. You know, sometimes they say death and taxes. Have you heard that, death and taxes? But, you know, you can find yourself like in a place where you don't have to pay taxes. You know, it's possible. There are places like that in the world. There's no taxes. So taxes actually, yeah. Nevada in the United States of America has no tax. So if you could move to Nevada and then taxes wouldn't be certain. But death would be certain. Right? I heard a Dharma teacher one time who was talking about refuge. You know, taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha or something like that, you know? And he was saying like, you know, it's very difficult, you know, it's very difficult to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You know, it's a lot easier to take refuge in death. Death won't let you down. You can really count on death. And it's true. It's the one thing in life that you can really count on. So why not think about it once in a while, at least, if not every day, okay? Death is certain. My death is certain. The time of my death is absolutely uncertain. So what the hell is going to matter when I die? Not if, when. And when I die could be tomorrow, could be tonight, could be next week, could be 5 years from now, could be for some of you 30, 40 years from now. But sooner or later, everyone in this room will no longer be here. Is that controversial? Anyone want to debate that? You know, and have some big freaking debate about it? This is the real facts of life, okay? And this is the quickest and easiest way to get really, really clear on, you know, how to live a life. Beginning today, beginning right now, you see. So that's all. That's all. That's how you sort out what's important and what's not. And like I mentioned in the last class, if you did this as I have done in the past on a daily basis, your life improves dramatically. Do you think that's the case? You know, some people resist the meditation. Oh, it's so morbid. I don't want to think about my death. It's so morbid. But actually, it's one of the most life-affirming meditations, because then you don't waste a whole lot of time, and you know, you start appreciating what you have. You know, the life that you have, and start maximizing it. What do they say? Like, you wake up and smell the roses, or the coffee, maybe, at least. You see? Instead of spacing out all the time. It's, you know, I'll get to it later, or I always have more time, and all like that. And you start living your life, you know, appreciating it and actually living it fully. And that's the quickest and easiest way to figure out what's important and what's not so important. So tonight, let's move ahead, okay? Action in non-action and vice versa is the first part of our class tonight. Mindful action and the importance of doing nothing. So we'll start with mindful action. Everyone got a handout, by the way? If you don't, raise your hand. So this is a verse from the Ashtavakra Gita, one of the great texts from the Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta tradition, for those of you who know, monistic tradition. For the fool, even inactivity manifests as activity, while for the wise man, even activity comes back to him as the fruit of inactivity. And then we'll just move on to the next one from the Bhagavad Gita, because they're both kind of saying the same thing. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction has understanding among men, disciplined in all action he performs. So back up to the first one. What does it mean to say even inactivity manifests as activity? I don't know if you've ever seen people like this. I noticed them, especially sometimes at restaurants, where you're just sitting around. You're basically not doing very much at a restaurant, right? You're not eating. A lot of times you're just waiting for food too, right? Or you're digesting after food. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's not much activity. And there are people who jiggle their feet the whole time that they're sitting around you. Have you ever seen them? You know, they can't stop moving. You know, they're sitting there jiggling. Okay? That's an example of inactivity manifesting as activity. You know, it's just, it's activity for its own sake, just doing something for its own sake. There's no purpose to it, okay? Right? Just keeping busy, just keeping active, okay? For the wise man, even activity comes back to him as the fruit of inactivity. So that's in the first verse. In the second verse, what he sees inaction in action. And action in inaction is foot jiggling. Action in inaction is foot jiggling. So what's the other one? Inaction in action. It means calm, relaxed, serene, even while doing stuff. You see? It's talking about mindset. A mindset of inaction even when you're in action, even when you're active. I was going to say when you're in action, but then it gets all confusing. Okay, you see what I mean though, right? This kind of like mental tranquility, even in the midst of activity. Okay? So there are people who are active even when they're inactive, because they're so nervous. And they're so attached to action. Remember last night we had verses like that, attachment to action. As if like somehow the purpose of life is to always be doing something. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. It could just be foot jiggling. But as long as you're doing something, you know, that's the point. See, that's a false worldview. That's a worldview that's conducive to, and it's conducive to stress, and it comes from stress. It derives from stress, and it's conducive to more stress. The more you foot wiggle, the more stressed out you are, and you're foot wiggling because you're stressed out. You see what I mean? It's a circle. It's a cycle all the time. So the next section is called mindful action. Mindfulness is the buzzword au jour, isn't it? Du jour. No, that's good. Ignorance should always be corrected. No, it's a major buzzword right now. It's competing with yoga as like the spiritual practice of, the faddish spiritual practice. Well, what does mindfulness mean? Mindful action. So we'll be talking about it, based on some verses from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. But I wanted to point out the word for mindfulness in Sanskrit is smriti, which is also the word for remembering. Mindful just means remembering. So what is it that you're remembering? You're remembering to be present. To be present, to be here and now. To pay attention to what's going on here and now. And not space out, not daydream through life, okay? So, the spiritual life can get as complicated or as simple as you want. The Dalai Lama is a great example of this. I've had the great fortune of hearing the Dalai Lama maybe as many as 10 times in different kinds of settings. And I've heard Dalai Lama teachings that, you can't understand, even in English. It's just so complicated and philosophically deep and all like that. I remember I used to go to these teachings and I would always fall asleep. It was because it was hard. And plus there's some kind of like demon that doesn't want you to understand. So I tried everything, I tried to just fall asleep during the Tibetan parts. And then wait for, take a little cat nap before the translator came on and come back again. You see, it was very, very complicated. And then I've heard the Dalai Lama in other settings And it's a simple monk. Right? My religion, kindness. You heard him say that kind of stuff? And which one's the real Dalai Lama? See, which one's the real truth about religion or about spirituality? The detailed, kind of philosophically convoluted, hard to understand bit, or the bit where it is just be nice. Okay? You don't have to make it so complicated, but people want it to be complicated. You see, if you just did, if we had a big thing here at Oasis Holistic, and we sat down and said our message to you is to just be nice. Any questions? You'd say well, no, that's not good enough. Say more. Okay, well, be real nice. Be nice in this way, be nice in that way, and then you complicate it up. But it doesn't need to be complicated. Mindfulness doesn't need to be complicated. You can make it complicated, and people want it sometimes to be complicated. But it just means remembering to be present. That's all it means, full stop. Just stay present in what's happening here and now. And that's really hard to do. I mean, the simple practices, the simple sort of, explanations of it doesn't mean it's easy. It's simply, explained. But it's very, very hard to do. It's hard to be nice too, by the way. Yeah, isn't it? It's easy to be nice when people are nice to you. And then people go, oh, I'm so nice, because nice people I'm being nice to nice people. You don't get any points for that. No, I mean, everyone's nice to people who are nice to them. You don't get any points for that. Here's where you get points, when you're nice to people who aren't nice to you. See that? Because that's hard. Right? So, just because it's easy to say, mindfulness only means be present, remember, smriti, to be present in what's happening here and now. Just because it's easy to say doesn't mean it's easy to do at all. All right? So mindfulness in action. It's just we're always in action. So, it's kind of redundant in a way to say mindful action. We're always doing something, even if it's very, very subtle. The mind is always active in some way or another. Right? Even in deep meditation, the mind is very hard to turn off. That non-conceptual meditation that Jennifer said was kind of cheating or something like that, it's not cheating. It's not easy. It's very, very difficult. That's a very difficult meditation. Okay? So even in meditation, even in kind of calmest moments of our lives, there's still activity going on. So to say mindful action is a little bit redundant. We're always active. All right? So what does it mean? Here's another way of talking about it. Being self-possessed. You know that expression? Self-possessed. Means like you're in charge of you. Okay? You're aware of you, and therefore you're in charge of you. The awareness of what's happening to you in the here and now is a kind of being in charge. Right? Instead of just having whatever impulses or, random mind farts that are going on in your mind happen. You're in charge. From the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. This is the beginning of the 8th chapter, which comes after the 7th chapter. What's the 7th chapter about?
Joyful effort.
Yeah, joyful effort. So here he's calling it perseverance. Having thus fortified one's perseverance. Another name for joyful effort. One should establish the mind in meditative integration. This is my translation of samadhi. Samadhi, meditative integration. There's about at least 8 or 10 words for meditation in Sanskrit. I mean, the English language is very poor compared to the Sanskrit language when it comes to something like meditation. We basically have 2 words for meditation. Meditation and contemplation. Right? I mean, can anyone think of another sort of synonym for meditation? Meditation, contemplation. In Sanskrit, there are all kinds of ones. One of them is samadhi. As some of you know, samadhi is also the eighth anga, the eighth part of the eightfold path of yoga. So what does samadhi mean? And you know, there's lots of, again, you can make it as complicated or as simple as you want. You can, you can read yoga texts that talk about samadhi in very, very, difficult, ethereal, philosophical languages of this kind of like deep state of, kind of advanced, kind of consciousness and all of that. But I try to, because I'm a simple person, I like to try to make it as simple, to understand it as simply as possible. Samadhi literally means putting it together. Samadhi, So integration in English, So meditative integration, you don't even have to have the meditative there. Samadhi means integration. How's that? So integration into what? That's the next question. So how about this, okay? Again, to try to keep it simple, let's make our goals in the spiritual life simple too, okay? It doesn't have to be all that complex. Integration means integrating into life as life is happening. Okay? Everyone's living a life here. And life is happening on a moment-to-moment basis. And we are not integrated into our lives. Why? Because we're busy interpreting, judging, mediating, talking about it. Everyone got that little voice inside? Is it just me? Everyone got that little voice of consciousness inside that keeps yapping in there all the time?
Yes.
Okay? As long as that voice is yapping, you are not integrated into life. You see, you're talking about life instead of living life. It's keeping us one step removed from life. It's like a sportscaster, who's talking about a football game instead of actually playing the football game. See, we're not living life exactly. We're at least one step removed. That's kind of best case. That's when we're not just spaced out fantasizing about future stuff that hasn't happened and past stuff that's already happened.